All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really fascinating. We are totally decoding the hidden, science-backed psychological patterns that literally keep people stuck in a cycle of financial struggle. I'm super excited to guide you through this because, honestly, we're moving way beyond your standard, everyday budgeting advice. We're diving right into the human brain. Think about it like this. If you really want to understand how money works, you absolutely have to understand how your mind works first. So, let's jump right in.
We've all met someone like this, right? A person who works incredibly hard, they're busy 24/7, but they just never seem to get ahead financially. They're always talking about big dreams, the next big success, but no matter how hard they hustle, their actual reality just stays exactly the same year after year. So what's really going on there? Well, the science of psychology tells us this actually isn't about a lack of talent, and surprisingly, it isn't always a lack of opportunity either.
Psychology reveals that it is mostly about hidden mental patterns. These patterns keep your brain stuck in reaction mode, just constantly reacting to your environment instead of actually taking control of your wealth. When you're trapped in that scarcity cycle, your mind is literally working against you. But the good news, if we can pinpoint these exact habits, we can break those chains and completely shift you into a mindset of financial control.
Okay, let's look at the very first major trap. In psychology, this is known as an external locus of control. It's a bit of a fancy term, but it's an absolutely crucial concept. It directly links financial struggle to this deeply ingrained habit of blaming luck, society, or just other people for your problems. It's that deep-seated belief that life, and especially debt and financial struggle, are just things that happen to you, like you're just a passenger and it's totally out of your hands.
And it's wild to see how this plays out in real life. When someone truly believes the system is completely rigged against them, they naturally just point fingers. And worse, they completely stop looking for ways to improve their situation. I mean, why try if it's all rigged, right? Compare that to a mindset that's focused on building stairs, taking actual agency, and hunting down real solutions. It's night and day.
So here is the bottom line. Giving up responsibility immediately strips away your power to change your financial future. It's not simple. The absolute second you decide your bank account is someone else's fault, your brain just shuts off. It stops looking for a way out. You've essentially just handed over the keys and given up the driver's seat of your own life.
All right, let's move into our next section, the dopamine deception. We're going to talk about false progress and instant rewards.
Okay, be honest for a second. Have you ever spent hours just daydreaming about success? Picturing the huge house, the nice car, total financial freedom? It feels amazing, doesn't it? But confusing that daydreaming with actual progress is incredibly dangerous, because constantly visualizing the end goal releases these tiny hits of satisfaction in your brain, like a fake little checkmark. And that fake checkmark literally reduces your internal urgency to do the slow, tedious, actual boring work that building wealth requires.
And this feeds right into what we call dopamine loops. Human brains are naturally hardwired to crave instant rewards over long-term goals. So a trigger happens, the impulse follows, and your brain just screams for that quick hit of instant gratification. Maybe it's a random online purchase, maybe it's endlessly scrolling. You get that fast dopamine spike, sure, but it inevitably leads right to step 4, long-term financial loss.
This really is the core dilemma. Without that quick feedback loop, your brain literally finds financial planning painfully boring, so it resists the whole process. Building wealth is, by definition, all about delayed gratification. But a brain trapped in that dopamine loop, it's going to predictably, repeatedly choose to spend today just to avoid the boredom of saving for tomorrow.
Now we run into a really massive psychological barrier, and it's called cognitive rigidity. We see this all the time in folks who are chronically struggling with money. It is the literal inability to think flexibly. People with high cognitive rigidity view money, debt, spending, all of it in super extreme black and white terms. For them, there's absolutely no gray area, which, as you can imagine, is a huge problem in the financial world.
Look at how extreme this actually gets. Because holding different perspectives on wealth requires a lot of mental effort, they just don't do it. Instead, they look at every single financial opportunity as either a complete, total scam or an absolute overnight miracle. Nothing in between. Meanwhile, the successful mindset is out there comfortably navigating the nuance and the actual complexity of the real market.
So, the massive takeaway here is that sticking to comfortable thinking is exactly what keeps you poor. When reasoning through complex financial ideas feels like too much mental heavy lifting, people retreat. They just go back to what feels familiar. They stick to their rigid extremes, even when that comfortable mindset is the exact thing draining their bank account.
Okay, moving on to Section 2,
identity sabotage and mental exhaustion.
Think of your brain as a really strict compliance machine. It is quite literally designed to resist doing anything that doesn't match how you see yourself. So, if you secretly harbor this belief that I'm just not a disciplined person, or, people like me don't get rich, your mind will actually subconsciously sabotage you. You will accidentally overspend or blow an opportunity just to prove your own internal identity right.
It's a harsh truth, but you really cannot achieve a level of wealth that your identity doesn't believe you deserve. If your self-image doesn't line up with financial success, your brain will forcibly drag your reality back down to match your self-image. You'll miss out, you'll make bad choices. You absolutely have to fix how you see yourself before your bank account can ever change.
Which brings us perfectly to our final trap, analysis paralysis. A lot of people who struggle with money are not lazy at all. They're just severe overthinkers. They analyze every tiny risk, every single outcome, every possible side hustle. And they do this until 95% of their mental energy is just entirely eaten up by overthinking. So when it's time for that 5% where they actually need to pull the trigger and take action, they are just way too mentally drained to do a thing.
These folks aren't dragging their feet, they are completely mentally exhausted from letting fear run the whole show. The real insight here is that overthinking is almost never about being thorough. Usually it's just a really profound fear of failure that has put on a clever disguise and called itself preparation. It feels like you're working on your finances, but actually you're just exhausting your brain so you don't have to take a risk.
All right, Section 3, The Cure, Rewiring Your Mind. Let's talk about how to break free.
Listen, if you're recognizing any of these habits in yourself today, I need you to know you are not broken. You don't have a low IQ. It simply means your brain and your nervous system adapted to past pressures and old survival modes. The fact that you're sitting here watching this explainer, actively hunting down this knowledge, that proves you've got the intellectual hunger it takes to change. The very first step is just calling out the old patterns. Because here's the thing, once you start seeing these mental traps in your everyday life, that external locus of control, those dopamine loops, the cognitive rigidity, you literally cannot unsee them. You'll start catching yourself right in the act. So the big question is, are you going to stay comfortable in those draining familiar habits? Or are you going to put in the effort to completely rewire your mind?
Because I promise you, the moment you truly commit to that work, the exact moment you align your identity with your goals and take back your locus of control, your financial future becomes absolutely unstoppable. So I'm going to leave you with one final thought. What is one uncomfortable financial truth you're going to take full responsibility for today?